Guys, and welcome to another Kitchen Draft Live. As mentioned earlier, the plan was probably to go live tonight or not, but in the end, we've got all the ingredients ready, we've got everything we need, and we're gonna be making something for the cold Romanian platters. Very popular for Christmas, New Year's Eve, or even Easter, especially in my region, especially in northern region of Romania, where I'm coming from, north west. So we're gonna be making schnitzels, and we're gonna be making some meatballs, pork meatballs, a recipe that I have on my channel as well, but we're gonna be doing it live. These are like the main, I would say, components for the cold platters during Christmas, New Year, or even Easter. So bear with me today, and even if you're not watching till the end, at least jump into the chat, say hello, and we're gonna see what's going on. So I'm gonna go through the ingredients that we've got here, but we're gonna take it slowly. We have time. There are more than 24 hours of 2021 to go, and we have more than enough time. Plus, we're doing another live tomorrow morning. So if you're not yet subscribe to the channel to see what's going on, make sure you do that because another live is coming up tomorrow. If you're in the chat, make sure you leave a comment. That'll be highly appreciated, especially since you are with me at this time. And I'm gonna go through the ingredients that you need for this recipe, which are two recipes that are not that complicated, quite meaty. We eat a lot of pork for Christmas in Romania. Although I'm not in Romania at this point, I'm trying my best to kind of get ingredients that make sense, that are as close as possible to what I would use if I was home. Now, let me show you what I've got here. So I'm gonna go first with the meatballs. I'm just gonna show you what I've got for meatballs. And I've got about 400 grams of minced pork, but this is quite lean. Let me show you here what's going on. This is quite lean. So the problem with this is you don't really want these for fried meatballs because what's happening, they kind of get rock solid and you don't really want that. So I have here some sausage meat. Obviously, if you can get it right from the beginning, getting the right fat content, which is about 15%, 10 to 15, I would say is probably the sweet spot. Even if you go a bit higher, till 20, you'll still be kind of good. But I would say around 15% is what you want. So that's why I've got like 5% fat, and I don't know how much fat is in here, but this sausage meat obviously has got a lot more fat. So that's why I'm using this in combination with this to get something like close to 15% fat. So these combining these two together, we'll have some nice moist, well, not moist, but at least they're not going to be that dry. They're going to have a better kind of like texture, our meatballs once they cook, because bear in mind that these are served cold. Obviously you can, and we're going to have a few hot, that's absolutely fine, but these are mainly done, let's say a day before, or even on the day that you're planning to serve them, but hours before that, because they need to kind of cool down, and then after that they will go on platters with many other ingredients. So that's for the meatballs. Obviously we're going to be adding 2 or 3 cloves of garlic, salt, pepper, just a bit of thyme, not a lot of thyme, and we've got here some smoked paprika and some regular paprika, and I think that's pretty much it for the meatballs. So that's what's going to happen with the meatballs when we get to it. Now for the actual schnitzels, you can use whatever the meat you think that works best, but something that's lean, I would say it's best for this situation. I'm using pork tenderloin, but then if you don't find that, you can go get away with pork loin. Obviously that's lean as well, and these are working really well. But what you need to do, and what we're gonna be doing, is just remove this white skin, which is the tough part of the, and you don't really want that. Obviously just slicing, you're not going to get much, but you don't want that. You want to kind of like trim all of these as much as possible, and you don't really want that much fat either, because we're going to flatten them with the hammer, with the meat tenderizer. And then again, we have salt, pepper. We're going to have a bit of garlic powder in this situation, although you can go with fresh garlic as well, as long as you kind of like spread it all over the place. I'm also going to be using some sweet paprika, some smoked paprika, and I'm not sure if I mentioned thyme, but then thyme as well. And what I forgot, which I definitely forgot, is the parsley for the meatballs. Parsley for the meatballs. I actually think that it works really well in this situation, so make sure you add some of that. Now, continuing with the schnitzel, for the schnitzel, you're also going to pan it, because schnitzel is very well, it's not a Romanian dish, let's be honest. Schnitzel, I think, is more Austrian or German, but then it's really popular in Romania, and it feels like home in a way, because we're cooking quite a lot. We're using quite a lot of schnitzels wherever you go, probably even in restaurants. If it's something traditional Romanian food, although it sounds kind of crazy because it's not our own dish, it's really popular in Romania, and schnitzels are definitely on the table, whether it's Christmas, whether it's New Year's Eve, or even Easter. Although for Easter is a bit more lamb, people are eating a bit more lamb than pork, but still in my region, in northern region, I would say where I'm coming from, it's more popular with pork. So we're going pork all the way today. We have minced pork, we have pork tenderloin, and now let's just get into it. So they're not gonna take that long. Obviously the meat is kind of prepared here, but what I need to do is now just get rid of all this white part that's kind of bothering us here, because that's the part that we need to remove in order to get nice and not having all that chewy part, that's ideal. So make sure you get the knife sharp, and what you want to do is just get underneath with the tip of the knife, and then obviously you just want to remove this, and you don't want to remove any of the meat. Well, as much as possible. Obviously you'll still kind of do that, but as much as possible you just want to get some of that out the way. And if there is any fat, which this shouldn't really have that much, but there are some parts here which have some white bits, so remove that as much as possible. It's a bit more tricky with these. It's obviously easier with the pork tenderloin, getting the when you need to slice it, because we're going to be slicing it, and after that using the meat tenderizer just kind of flatten it out. But it's easier because obviously it's chunkier and it's easier. You just go kind of one slice, but here we have some sort of trick in order to get us pretty much the same result. So I'm going to show you in a minute what I'm talking about. So this is not that bad. I mean, this is probably what I'm looking for. Nice clean meat. This goes back in here, and then just let's move on to the next one. Same thing here. Try to remove all this white part. You probably have exactly the same problem. Well, it's not really that big of a problem, let's be honest. It doesn't take long. If you're using pork loin. So removing this, removing that. And there is some white part here that doesn't really belong where I want it to. So I'm going to get rid of this as well. So that's pretty much it. And that's where we want to be when it comes to cleaning the pork. Obviously, it's not like we're making it for carpaccio, because this is going to get fried anyway. So that's not that big of a problem. We can just leave it the way it is. Now, let's get this sorted. So let me show you how you're going to cut this. Because as I said, if it was pork loin, obviously being chunkier, you can go with one slice. But in this situation, being slightly small, well, a lot probably smaller, we're going to go like this. So you're making one incision, but you don't go all the way through. And then you're doing another one, which you go all the way. So it's basically like opening up, butterflying basically the meat. So we get bigger surface. Although it doesn't look big, we don't need to go huge. And we're not going to get to that, to a big size anyway, considering the size of this loin. Exactly the same thing here. Butterflying, and that's it. So we get a lot bigger surface by doing this. Each one of these will be a schnitzel. I would probably say, if you were to go like the most probably common meat used for this recipe in Romania, or maybe even in I don't even know. I don't want to talk something that I don't know 100%, but probably even in Germany would probably be pork loin. Why pork loin? It's kind of easier to work with. This meat is kind of a lot more tender. Pork loin can take a lot more beating when it comes to like tenderizing it. Plus, it's got like bigger surface. You're gonna get a lot bigger schnitzel, especially if you're using the butterfly method. Then you're definitely gonna get better, not better, but bigger. Yeah, towards the end of the actual meat, it's kind of hard to get it right. What you could also do, you could trim the ends and just use this for like a stir fry or something like that in the future. But now I want to use the whole thing in one go, so this is not an option. Yeah, if you want to do that, you can definitely do so, or use it for a stew, or use it for something like that, and just get the chunkier bit, which is this one here. Is going to be probably a lot easier to work with. Okay, getting that out of the way. Gonna get quite a few schnitzels here, to be honest, but that's fine. It's that time of the year. I made for Christmas too. I used pork loin in that situation. I think they went quite well, to be honest with you. Okay, so now that we've got them all portioned, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna mix all the seasoning in one little pot. So this way, it's gonna be a lot easier to kind of season them all in the same time, instead of like going individual with each one of the seasoning. Get them all in one pot, whatever the ingredients, whatever the seasoning you're using, and this is gonna be a lot easier. Now let me just quickly wash my hands, and then we're getting into it. Right, now, so we've got here the meat tenderizer, and I'm gonna get a little bowl, probably not that big. I need something probably smaller if I can find. If not, that's fine. Actually, I'm gonna use this. It's not like I have another option. So let's get this one ready. How are you guys doing? I hope you're having an amazing time. I hope you're ready for New Year's Eve and New Year in general for 2022. Hoping that it's gonna be better, but who knows? So salt. So we've got everything here. Everything is gonna go into this bowl in order to season all this meat. Now let me show you what's going on here. So salt, I'm gonna go with like, I don't know, probably like 1 tablespoon of salt. Even if I have, maybe I'm not going to be using the whole thing, and most likely I'm not. 1 teaspoon of black pepper, and then about a teaspoon of garlic powder. Now, when it comes to smoked paprika, not too much, because I don't want it to be like too smoky. So I just want like a 1/4 teaspoon. That will do the job. I'm going to be using a bit more sweet paprika, which is not that strong, but in the same time, will give you a bit of color. So that's like a teaspoon in there. And then I want to pick a few leaves of thyme. You could use dry thyme if you want to. I don't, for some reason, or maybe I got some really bad batch of dry thyme. It just doesn't work for me. It's got like at least the one I had, it had like a really weird flavor, and I don't want to use that. So what I'm ending up now is using fresh thyme for most of my recipes, and I absolutely love fresh thyme. It's got like a nice aroma. Whenever you kind of breaking it apart, you can feel some of that aroma, and I think it's just amazing. Plus, especially if you have it in a pot, if you have it in the pot, it will last quite a long time. So double bubble bonus. And plus, when you have this, plus on top of the plus now, when you have these, with the leftovers, you can use them, you can keep them and use them for a stock, use them for, let's say, if you want to make a stew, or if you're making roast potatoes, all that kind of stuff, they are ideal for that, because obviously there's still flavor in there, but I can't really add it because it's got that wood kind of like structure that I can't really use it, so I can only use the leaves in this situation. I mean, most of the times probably you add thyme and you either kind of like tied it up and you can remove it after that, because you're not gonna use these, so you need to remove them once you get the flavor into your dish, and that's where you kind of stop when it comes to thyme. Now let's mix everything together in here. So that's the seasoning. It's probably more than I need, but that's fine, because this is like a more or less a universal seasoning that can be used in multiple situations. But it's better kind of have more than not enough. Plus, I'm not gonna add any more seasoning after this. You know, some people add in the flour, some people add in the breadcrumbs. I'm not gonna eat, just probably a touch in the egg, but that's pretty much it. That's where I kind of stop. And then this is all the seasoning that I'm using in this situation. Now, let's get rid of the stuff that we don't need. I'm gonna keep these just in case I'm using them for a stock or something like that. And now, let's make some space in here. So we need to tenderize the meat. And for this is kind of, it's loud and annoying in the same time, but it's got to be done. So let's just move most of it and then spread, but just leave some space. Actually, let me show you what's going on here. Leave some space in between them, just because obviously once you flatten them out, they're gonna spread and you're not gonna have enough space on the board. So leave some space in between them. Go on the corner is probably ideal if you go on the corner of the table, so you don't kind of like do it in the middle, because it's gonna bounce all over the place. And now, once you get them at this level, you want to add some plastic wrap on top. This way, we keep it nice and tidy. It doesn't kind of like splatter all over the place. Or you could use a plastic bag or something like that, but look how much tidier. Plus, what this does, it kind of helps not breaking the meat. It evens it in a way. And this is kind of this meat is really tender. It's like the fillet steak of pork. That's what it actually is. Pause the time. So it's 8:40. So I'm still kind of safe, making some noise here in the building. You don't really want to go more than this. This is what you're kind of looking for. I'm not sure if you actually see it. You don't want to go too thin. That's just fine. I'm going to bring a different plate, because we're just going to transfer to a different plate, keeping it nice and clean. And okay, so first, I'm going now with the seasoning. So I'm going to go with a bit at the bottom, because obviously we're going to start putting meat in here. So a bit at the bottom. We're going to add on each one of the layers seasoning. So like this, we're going to make sure that the meat is properly seasoned by the time we're done with this whole cooking. I'm going to put a towel underneath, and it's probably recommended to do that, just because it just kind of like stops all that vibration. So ideally, you probably want to do that. We got Patricia in the house. Hi, Patricia. Yeah, we're making schnitzels, and we're making, well, I know like you guys in Poland, you kind of like really big on this as well. It's not just us. We kind of share a lot of these food values in a way, when it comes probably not to Christmas, but then in general, most of the Romanian food, it's really close to Polish, and probably the other way around. You do a lot of pickles as well. You guys eat a lot of pork like we do. I'm not saying that is a good thing necessarily, but who knows what is good and what is bad these days. So, same story. Don't go extremely thin, because you still need to handle them later on. So you don't want to break them. So that's one of the reasons why you don't want to go too thin. Plus, you still want to feel some of that meat, not just the breadcrumbs. Okay. Yeah, definitely adding the towel underneath the chopping board, it does a lot better job attenuating, well, kind of stopping all that sound to go crazy. Well, and me bothering the neighbors. Plus, this table really doesn't help that much because it's kind of wobbly, so that's another reason. So now we're going with another layer of seasoning on top of what we prepared so far, and then let's just move on, another layer of meat. You can keep this foil for the next round, that should be fine, the plastic wrap. Okay. Now let's get another round of meat here. So same as last time, we're gonna be adding them one next to another, but not that close. So just make sure that you leave some space in between. This wrap should be fine. Just reusing it, because this is more of a like stopping the juice meat to kind of like splatter all over the place. What I like about using pork tenderloin is the fact that the meat is a lot more tender than using, I don't know, let's say pork shoulder, or I don't even know what other example I could give. Even pork loin, this is more tender, and you don't really need to go crazy with the hammer. And obviously being tender, it helps with the actual dish itself, because you're gonna get some really nice, and you don't need to struggle when you bite into that schnitzel like you eating some sort of like chewing gum. Okay, another seasoning layer. We got that there. Now let's move on to the next. How you guys doing? Let me know in the chat if you have any questions. As you can see, you probably could see in the title, you could see what's going on here. We're making pork schnitzels, and we're also making some pork meatballs, which are there. Well, the meat is there, but we're kind of getting to it right after. This is going to be a longer one. I think it's going to be longer just because, well, I always say probably it's not going to be that long, but we always kind of taking at least like 50 minutes. So I'm guessing this is probably going to be like over, well, it's definitely going to be over an hour. How long over an hour? I have no idea. But I appreciate if you stay here with me. A bit more seasoning. I didn't add enough last time, so just a bit more. As I said, it probably looks a lot, but it's important to season both sides. In my opinion, you know, you get it right from the beginning. You don't really need to add that much seasoning into the flour or into the egg. Although into the egg, I'm probably gonna add a bit of this, you know, because it's gonna be something left over. I'm gonna be adding just a touch into the egg. But other than that, that's pretty much it. Getting the meat seasoned right, and you should be good. Oh, we got team in the house. How you doing, team? Yeah, mate, we are making here some nice schnitzels. I'm not sure how much you know about schnitzels, but man, these are going to be amazing. So make sure you stay here till the end, or at least get here later on and see what's going on. I'm also making some pork meatballs, a recipe that was on the channel, but we're going to be making it live. So this is a different story, you know, when you're making it on the channel, just like an edited video. Although I'm trying my best to kind of like show what's going on, it's not the same as making it live. Plus, it's easier to screw it up when you're doing it live. So we'll find out now what's going on. So thanks, team, for being here with us. Okay, I'm gonna be changing these because this is kind of like breaking in pieces. It's probably better if you use some sort of bag, just like a kind of like stronger bag, and just put it on top, transparent bag, put it on top of it, and then you can probably go with that in just use it like everything in one go, but a bit more of this cling film is needed. Oh, Tim is a big fan of schnitzel. That's it, man. How can you not be? Are you cooking schnitzel, or is just you big fan and that's pretty much it, and you're just waiting for your mom or your father to cook them? Now we get into these smaller bits, which it gets a bit more complicated at this point, just because we have all the parts, you know, that are tinier, but that's fine. We're gonna get smaller schnitzels, but that's absolutely fine. They're still gonna be tasty. They're still gonna be okay. And in most situations, when these are going on the platters, it's not that you cannot put them like put the whole thing on the platter, but they usually get sliced like probably that thick, kind of like finger size strips. So you wouldn't really know which one was the big one, which one was the small one in most situations, especially when you use it for these kind of like platters. Then this is how you add them. Obviously, this can be used like with mashed potato if you were to do it with fries, if you want to do fries and so on. But the thing is, if you are to make them for cold platters for this like festive period, then you would probably make them. It doesn't really matter the size. That's what I want to say. Okay, 2 more to go and no more noise. Yeah, sorry about that. This is kind of like, it's actually not that bad. I was expecting it to be that a lot more noisier, but the cloth is attenuating most of that noise. Okay, so 1 more to go. If I wasn't to use this cling film, I can guarantee you I would have been all like pork beads all over my shirt and so on. So yeah, it's ideal to get something like this on top, although you can without, but it just gets too messy. Okay, so more seasoning. And that's pretty much it. Now what we're doing with this, we're getting it into the fridge. So I'm going to leave it into the fridge. And I'm going to move on to the pork meatballs. So we're going out to the pork meatballs. Some of this actually seasoning, I can use it for the pork meatballs too, but I'm going to show you like probably right from the beginning what's going on, just to see like what you need to add. Okay, this cloth can be here, and I don't need this anymore. Just gonna replace this. No more meat on that. So okay, this is going in the fridge. Let's wrap it up. It's going in the fridge, and then after that we can move on with the pork meatballs. Okay, straight in the fridge. It's gonna have enough time to, well, probably not enough. It would have been probably ideal to leave it a bit more, but to absorb some of that seasoning, be just great by the time we need to continue to the next stage, which is panning. So we're gonna get flour, egg, and breadcrumbs. I'm kind of going a bit fancy today because I'm using panko breadcrumbs, but you don't need to. And the original recipe probably doesn't even have, well, definitely doesn't have the panko breadcrumbs, because this is more of a like the katsu curry kind of katsu chicken kind of thing. But I think, you know, using, if you want to not impress, because you can't really, well, the taste will definitely be there, but it's not something that you can really improve it to a whole new level. Although you probably can do a few adjustments there, but I don't think it's something that you can improve it like big time. So I think it's more of a, like focusing on taste than the way it looks. But then what's happening when you're using panko breadcrumbs, this is giving it a bit of like a height. It's giving it a bit of it's giving you a bit more like texture as well, because obviously the crumbs are different. I'm going to show you here like how they look like, and I probably have some of the normal one. I'm pretty sure I do actually, because I need it for the actual meatballs, something that I forgot to mention at the beginning. But then when it comes to it, I'm going to show you what I'm adding there. Plus we're adding eggs. Okay, I'm a bit all over the place today, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there. So meat back. So that's the combination of like lean meat with a bit like fattier meat. That's just because I can't really get the right fat content. But if you can get around 15% fat content, then you shouldn't really worry about that. But now since I can't, I'm just combining like a 5% pork with about, I don't even know how much percent that sausage meat has, but it's definitely a lot fattier than this. So it should get me the right amount of fat into my dish. So both in. Okay, now garlic. I'm using, these are like 3 cloves of garlic here. Probably 3 is a bit too much, but I think I'm gonna go with 3 actually. You can't really feel garlic that much. 3, it's probably fine for what we've got here. You don't want it to be like really strong, but in the same time, you want to feel that garlic in there. So I think 3 or even 2, if you feel like that's a bit too much, should give us the right results. How are you guys doing? Where are you watching this from? Are you watching it from Facebook? Are you watching it from YouTube? We got some wine in here. We also have some cheese. Well, we're having a great time here just before pretty much the last hours of 2021, less than 24 hours. We have another live tomorrow, so it's not like it's the last time we're meeting this year, but let's have a great time. And yeah, just say hello, how you guys doing, all that kind of stuff. We're cooking here. If you want to follow this recipe, it's fine. If you don't want to follow the recipe, at least jump in the chat and say hello, and I will see you in 2022 probably. Okay, so we're grating these. You could scrape it against your board with a bit of salt. I can't be really asked. I'm just gonna do it this way this time. Either way works, or even if you're using a garlic mincer, that will do the job too. It doesn't really matter as long as you get the same results. That's absolutely fine. Okay, 1 more, and then we're adding the rest of the seasoning and combining everything together. Okay, so garlic is in. We're not gonna need these anymore. Okay, so now pepper. There's probably like a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper in there, something like that. 1/4 teaspoon, I think, should do the job for what we need here. Salt. I've got some salt here. I would say that probably this is like, we need like a close to a teaspoon. So about a teaspoon of salt for the meat we've got here. We can obviously, what we're gonna do once we mix everything, because that's how you're gonna know. I mean, let's be honest, I'm not really measuring anything. I don't really have a proper recipe, to be honest. It's just kind of like looking at it and kind of like judging by the eye how much this or how much that you need. A 1/4 teaspoon of smoked paprika. Not too much, but I like a bit of smokiness in there. So as you can see, what I'm adding here is very close to what I'm adding to the schnitzels, but with the addition of something else, which I'm gonna show you in a. So this is like a 1/2 teaspoon, I would say, about 1/2 teaspoon, maybe a bit more, like 3/4, something like that. And now I'm also gonna be adding some thyme. Same like with the schnitzel. I absolutely love thyme and meat, thyme and pork. I think it's a great addition. And it's a shame that we don't really use it that much in Romania. And to be honest with you, this is definitely not in the original recipe. I can guarantee you're not going to find in the original recipe, at least not in my region. But I think this is a great addition. I'm going to chop it up even like smaller, just because I ended up getting some bigger bits in there. So this is like a quarter of teaspoon or even like half teaspoon of thyme, fresh thyme, going straight in. Now, eggs. I'm going to be adding 2 eggs for this recipe. 2, 1, I don't really know, to be honest. It's just more of like getting it a bit like the mix to get a bit looser. But in the same time, what the eggs do in combination with some breadcrumbs, they kind of compact the meat in a way and kind of keep it together whilst cooking. Plus, having just the meat itself, I think what the breadcrumbs does, okay, so that's probably the eggs. Obviously, in combination with the breadcrumbs, they all kind of like form that bound between the in the meatballs. But then I would say what the breadcrumbs do is also kind of like balancing that fat in a way, because there is quite a bit of fat in there, but the breadcrumbs, what the breadcrumbs will do, will just kind of like compensating some of that with a bit. I don't even know how to explain it, but in a way, it's probably although you need that fat, in the same time, you know, it's bad for you. Let's be honest. But then in the same time, what the thing is with the breadcrumbs is kind of like compensating some of that lack of lean meat, because there is some lean meat in there, but there is quite a lot of fat as well. So these are like the balancing all these ingredients. When it comes, eggs are kind of keeping them together, and I think the breadcrumbs is balancing, because you don't want that much meat in there. You also want some breadcrumbs. So let me get the breadcrumbs now. Pretty sure I've got some. Yeah, I do have some in here. Okay, so this is 400 grams, and it probably is like missing around 100. Probably like 200 is what I need. Even less, like 150. About 150, something like that. It's probably like around 150. You don't need to go crazy like measuring these things. It's not that important. If you're going, let's say 50 grams extra, nothing will happen. But obviously, I just kind of like use your own knowledge for that. Let's separate the eggs. So first egg in, second egg. Yeah, I'm adding 2 eggs. I think 2 eggs is just perfect for what we need here. It should work fine, and I think it's not going to be that much. Although you probably can get away with 1. Now let me kind of like check again what we've got here. Do we have everything we need? So we're missing the parsley. So I'm going to be adding the parsley. And then after that, we can combine everything together. And if we need more breadcrumb, because obviously the eggs are kind of like are liquid. If we need more breadcrumbs, we can add a bit more breadcrumbs later on and just adjust pretty much everything later on if we need to. So parsley, try to get only the leaves. I mean, obviously as much as you can, and chop it nice and small. So we're chopping these up nice and small, and then add it to the rest of the ingredients. And I'm pretty sure we have everything we need now in here, so we can combine all these ingredients together. Leave these on the side after that. So this has the chance of kind of developing all those flavors. And we're going to go back to the schnitzels, which are in the fridge at the moment. Well, the tenderized meat, because they're not really kind of schnitzels just yet. Okay, get your hands in, it's fine. Get your hands in, wash your hands, obviously, nice and clean, and then you can dig straight in. If it's something that bothers you, use gloves. I sometimes do, I sometimes don't. I don't think there's anything wrong if you kind of like feel what's going on here, especially if you have clean hands. So make sure you combine everything together until you get like a homogeneous paste. I think it's just fine the way it is. I was thinking that maybe I might be adding a bit more breadcrumbs, but it's not that bad actually. I think it's just fine the way it is. What we're going to be doing once we mix it properly, I'm going to try, let's say, when we start frying, just get a tiny one, well, one meatball, get into frying, and then see how it tastes. And if you need to adjust the seasoning, obviously I'm not going to taste raw meat. So you could do that. Just get one into the frying pan, see how it comes up, and then if you need to adjust something, you can do it after that. But I think I'm going to be fine with what I've got here. I'm kind of happy with the smell, with the aroma that I feel just by working on top of these balls. So I think I'm going to be fine. Okay. So all these nicely combined. I'm going to get these on the side and just kind of leave it to rest till we get the schnitzels in place. And then when it comes to frying, we're going to be doing first the meatballs. And then, because I want to give the meatballs a bit more time, if possible, obviously develop all that flavor, and start with the schnitzels first. It doesn't really matter that much. I just want to kind of start with the meatballs first because they require a bit more oil, and I've got quite a bit of oil in that pan already. So, pardon. I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to be able to fry anything after that because you want to keep the oil nice and clean. Otherwise, you probably can cook like one batch, 2 batches of meatballs or schnitzels in one go, and after that, you probably need to renew the oil just to make sure that they come nice and clean and they don't have any of those burnt bits into it. Okay, so these can stay here. We're not going to put it in the fridge. It can stay here on the side. I'm actually kind of like happy, even if it stays there for like 20 minutes, it shouldn't be any problems. We're going to get now the schnitzels out of the fridge. How are you guys doing? I hope that you're having an amazing time. Let me know in the chat if you have any questions. Right. So, if you're late in here, which it might be the case, this is the meat, the pork tenderloin that we tenderized just earlier. So these are well seasoned, and what we're gonna do now, we're gonna get them kind of like panned. Well, not kind of like panned with. Let me make some space here. So we're gonna be using panko breadcrumbs, and also we're gonna be using some flour and eggs. So this is like the way we're gonna pane these. I mean, this is what pane is in the end. It's not like I'm kind of inventing the wheel here. So let's start this process by getting up. So we need this, and we need 2 plates. One is going to be with flour, the other one is going to be with breadcrumbs. So the way you want to do it, so yeah, actually like this is fine. So we're going to have flour, egg, breadcrumbs. Flour, egg, breadcrumbs, and after that we're going to have here a plate where I'm going to put all the, let's get another plate. Actually I've got this plate that I used earlier. So we're going to have here another plate where I'm going to place all the schnitzels once they panned. So Breadcrumbs. These are the panko breadcrumbs I was talking about. They might be enough, they might be not, we'll find out. They might not be enough, to be honest with you, but that's fine because I've got some normal breadcrumbs in there. So that's absolutely fine. They don't really bring that much. They don't really bring that much, to be honest, to this dish, apart from like some crispiness. They get a bit more volume, the schnitzels, because obviously the breadcrumb itself is bigger. So I think that's the only kind of like benefit in a way. These are really popular. If you see probably in restaurants, in most of the restaurants, when you see something panned and it looks like nice and kind of like big and it's got some of that extra crispiness, that's probably panko breadcrumbs, and that's why it looks like that. Now, flour in here. Pretty sure I have some flour here, and I do. Okay, flour going straight in. Don't want to add too much, because if I need to add more later on, that's fine. We can go with more. But for now, that's all I need. Eggs. Okay, let's get the eggs. I'm going to go with 3 eggs for the beginning. Probably going to need more later on, but that's fine. If we need more, we need more. So 3 eggs and a touch of water. And as I said, I'm going to use a bit of that seasoning, but not a lot. I'm not going to go crazy with seasoning. I'm pretty heavily seasoned on the meat right there when we prepared the earlier. So I think we don't need much. Okay, 3 eggs and a touch of water. Seasoning, and then we're beating everything up. Yeah, just like 4 tablespoons or so of water. And I'm going to be using some of the seasoning. A good pinch of this, no more than that. I think I'll be happy with what I've got here. And now beating this up. Let me actually show you what's going on here. I'll actually add 1 more egg now because I know I'm going to need it. Probably even then it's not going to be enough, but that's fine. We can add more later on. I don't want to waste eggs in the same time. Obviously, if there is any left over, this is going to get you a great omelette. Okay, this seems fine to me. So now, the process is simple. As mentioned earlier, these are like the really bad kind of like pieces at the beginning. Well, the ones at the end. So it doesn't really matter. They'll be fine. So make sure this is coated really well in flour. That's the first process. Obviously, one hand, ideally, you want to keep it dry. One hand, obviously, is going to go into the flour. One hand wet, one hand dry. It's just going to make this process easier. So we're going to keep this dry, see if it, for how long it works. I kind of forget at some point and it gets messy anyway. But if it does, that's fine. Just kind of like wash your hands again and then you should be good. Okay, now straight into breadcrumbs. Just by getting into breadcrumbs, obviously in egg, these are like, it's really sticky and it's gonna be instant. Okay, this is going into the plate. Now, moving on. Yeah, this is the next, and then so on. We're going to continue with the rest of them. Now, the problem you might be having in this situation is the fact that the breadcrumb might go kind of like wet at this point. So what you might want to do is kind of stop here, just because. So we're going to do like 4 or 5. I don't really want to bore you like staying with me here for like the whole night. So I'm going to get another like 4 or 5 and then move on to the meatballs. And then I'm going to continue after that because obviously it's going to take quite a bit of time. And then you kind of know the process now. So flour first, then egg. I should have used my dry hand here, but that's fine. Don't worry about that. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to forget. And then straight into the breadcrumbs. And then in there. Now, flour with a dry hand if you can. And then moving it in here. Get the hand that should be like taking care of the wet ingredient. Once it's well coated in that egg, moving on in here. And I'm gonna leave it like this because I want to move on to the meatballs. Otherwise, you're gonna stay here with me and you're gonna get bored just by looking at the amount of schnitzels I have to make. I'm gonna make them after that, but I don't want to kind of like keep you here whilst I'm doing this because it's taking quite a bit of time. Let's be honest, not a lot of time, but I can't really do them in the same time, all of them, because the mixture will get wet if I don't cook these in the next, let's say, half an hour or so. Okay. So I'm going to remove these from here for now, for the time being. Getting these out of the way. Okay. Now, meatballs. As you can see, I'm changing my mind 100 times per hour, but that's absolutely fine. I don't have any script. I don't have any idea like how I'm going to cook. I'm just kind of like, if I'm going to make exactly the same recipe tomorrow, probably it's going to be different. There's a high chances that it's going to be different. And I think that's what cooking is all about. Maybe it's going to be different because let's say tomorrow I'm going to have a different wine. Who knows? Maybe it's going to be different because I'm not going to have any wine, but then that's a different story. Now, let's get into the meatballs. So another plate. Let me get the small plate. We're going to do 1 round of meatballs and 1 round of schnitzels. Frying, I'm talking. So 1 frying each and see what we end up with. So let's get the oil. So oil on, turning this on, and it should be like around medium-high heat. Around that area is what we're looking for. And now with meatballs, let me show you what's going on here. Let's make like a hole in the middle, and what you want to do is add a touch of oil. Well, 1-2 tablespoons of oil. And what this does is allowing you to kind of like use some of that oil on your hand, and this way the meat doesn't get stuck to your hands. It's a simple trick, but it's definitely very effective, and we'll get like nice smooth meatballs. So if you can see, and this is what you're looking for. You don't want them too big, but in the same time you don't want them too small, because if you go too small they get dry. So after frying, obviously you deep frying them kind of thing. Almost. I mean, there's probably enough oil in there to go like deep frying. Definitely more than shallow frying, and it's somewhere in between. But yeah, you don't want them too small, because if you go too small, then they will go too dry. Especially because most of these are served cold. I mean, that's the whole idea of serving them cold, and you want them to keep some of that moisture inside. Don't forget that we're going to be live tomorrow morning as well. We should be around 9. I think it's 9 that I said. Yeah, we're going to be making eggs Benedict. So tomorrow, let me get these on. Yeah, tomorrow we're going to be at 9 making eggs Benedict. Last day of the year tomorrow. We should have a video like every Friday. We're doing it live tomorrow. So last video of the year. And we're doing it live. that shouldn't really take, I always say that, but it shouldn't really take more than 45 minutes. Although we're talking, who knows, but then ideally you don't want to go more than 45 minutes for something like that. But we'll see. I hope that you're going to be with me tomorrow as well. So we should be around 9. So if you're interested, jump in tomorrow at 9 and we'll see you there. So while this oil is kind of getting hot, I'm confident that, you know, I've done kind of a mistake here, you know that, because I said that I'm going to test one, so testing one and then seeing how they are, but I already started making a few. So I'm going to stop here because just in case, you know, the flavor and the seasoning is not there. I might actually need to mix everything together again, but I'm kind of taking that chance. We'll see. Okay, whilst the oil is getting ready, which shouldn't really take that long, because with these inductions, you know, they're really fast. Oh, running out of paper warning. Okay, so whilst this is getting ready, we're gonna have a bit of a wine. What you could do, I need the temperature to be around 150 degrees Celsius. Although it's kind of low, we need to make sure that these are cooked all the way through. Obviously, getting it at high temperature, like 180, which is like the standard kind of temperature for frying, you're gonna get a nice color on the outside, but they're not gonna be cooked inside. And if you wanna get them cooked inside, they're gonna be burnt on the outside. So you need to drop that temperature to around 150 degrees Celsius. Obviously, I'm not going to measure. I just kind of know when I'm in that area in a way or another. But let's see. Yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm definitely not there yet. Yeah, I need to make sure that they cook properly. And when I mean they cook properly, they need to be cooked all the way through. Being minced meat, you want to make sure with minced meat that you cook it all the way through, so we don't get any problems later on. Let's increase the temperature because it seems like we're taking too long here. Have here some grapes, have some cheese. Perfect. Almost an hour since we started this live. If I was to go through all that now, through all the schnitzels, it probably take too long, and I don't want to kind of keep you here because I want to see. I want you to see the end result. I'm going to continue with those schnitzels after that, but once you get the point, it's not really kind of like. Once you get the point, what's the point keeping you here for longer? Okay, so this goes in. So that's like my first meatball. Let's see how it's going to be, and I think the temperature is kind of there. Now, what you want to do? And I'm gonna need paper. I hope that I have more paper. I'm pretty sure I should have more paper somewhere. Okay, I'm gonna find out that in a minute. But what I wanna do now, obviously frying them in the oil, is gonna be quite a lot of like oil going on. And I want to make sure that once they're done, I get rid of all that excess oil. Whether I have paper or not, that's a different story. Probably don't have any more, but that's fine because what I could do, I'm just using this colander here, and this should kind of like drain all that oil if there is any. Don't do that, by the way. Don't use your fingers. You might want to burn yourself. You might, yeah, probably you would burn yourself, but I'm a naughty cook. Pretty sure that we had paper. I don't know. Maybe in here, maybe not. Anyway, we use quite a lot over the Christmas period, so probably it's nothing left, but that's fine. Can get away with what we've got here. So in a minute, I'll be able to know whether this is fine or this is not fine. And this is not, if this is not fine, then I'll need to get all this back in and mix everything together again, add more seasoning. But hopefully we got it right from the beginning. And the only way to know it is kind of like test one, and that's how you're gonna know. Otherwise, how the heck you're gonna know is kind of impossible. Just make sure that we give it color on all sides. Obviously, once we're adding like multiple in there, the level of the oil is gonna go up, so it's gonna be a lot easier to fry them. But at this point, it's not that great frying only one. Turn down the temperature because I think it's a bit too high, to be honest with you. We're almost there. We're almost there. So we're going to get these out and see whether it's ready or not. Well, whether it's kind of seasoned properly or not, because it should be ready. I'm not really questioning the cooking that much. It's more of a like questioning the actual flavor of this. Yeah, just over an hour of being live. And by the way, we are live both on Facebook and on YouTube. So whichever the platform you feel like works best. Although, to be honest with you, if you're watching on Facebook, not that I don't like Facebook, because this seems to be like my strongest community. I think on YouTube it kind of looks better because of the higher quality, and the compression I think on Facebook is higher. So that's why you're not going to get the best quality. But watching it on YouTube, probably you're going to get better results. So maybe you might want to try that. But as long as you're here, it doesn't really matter. You're here. Yeah, that's absolutely fine with me. But just in case, if you want to experiment, we are both on Facebook and on YouTube live in the same time. Okay, now this is still hot, but I need to dig in. I need to see whether it's... And you know what? I'm happy with what I've got here. You could probably say that a touch of salt could probably get you further, but I think it's fine the way it is. So let's get... So I want to make sure that I get the whole kind of like pan ready to go in. So I'll need another like 5, 7, 8, 10 or something like that meatballs ready. Let me actually show you what's going on here. For those of you that are late into the stream, that's what's happening. We are making pork meatballs the Romanian way. Well, to be honest, it's Romanian way and it's also my way. But as mentioned at the beginning of the stream, these are really popular in Romania for Christmas or New Year, at least in my region, because obviously Romania is quite a big country, so you won't have exactly the same traditions when it comes to food in northern Romania, same as you have in south. But in North Romania, if you go in northern Romania, I can guarantee you, in most of the people will have something like this, either for Christmas or New Year, or maybe for both. Chances are for both. And I've done some for Christmas. I'm gonna do now for New Year. That's what I'm doing. These are served cold. You can obviously serve them hot, but that's why I'm making them today, so they're ready for tomorrow. You can keep them up to like 3 days easy in the fridge. Obviously, any more than that, they probably go too dry. Obviously, you're losing some of that quality into the meat, so you might not want to do that. Now, actually, let's get back here. So going straight into the oil, which, as I said, it should be around 150 degrees Celsius, just to make sure that we're cooking them properly and we don't burn them. can actually make a few more just before. In the same time, you don't want to go too crazy with too many because you want to leave some space in between. So when you kind of like turn them over, you have that space there available. Okay, that's fine. I'm actually happy with that. Just washing my hands quickly. As I said, you could use gloves if you want to, but I don't really. As long as you clean your hands all the time and you keep them nice and clean, you shouldn't have this problem. Now, let's see the rest of it. Perfect. Honestly, this feels like home. They're so, I would say they're quite close. Apart from obviously, I'm adding the thyme and the smoked paprika. These are two ingredients that most likely my mom never used in this recipe. But other than that, they are pretty close. And I honestly like them more like this because they pack a lot more flavor this way. And I actually believe that these are actually better than the ones I made for Christmas, without a joke. And I made some for Christmas. I made some just before Christmas when I made the YouTube video. And this is like third time in the period of like a week and a half or so, something like that I make pork meatballs. And it seems like the more I do it, the better I get. Although in the past I used to make quite often, but these are not something that you see like in Romania. These are not something. Although these, I like this. I wouldn't like to eat something like this every day. Obviously, they're kind of heavy. You fry them in oil. Quite a lot of fat in here and so on. It's not something that you would like to probably have. Well, at least it's not ideal, at least for you. Although they are tasty, you can tell that it's not the healthiest method of cooking them, and the meat itself has quite a bit of fat as well. So, but they definitely work for this festive season when we are going a bit more crazy when it comes to food. And I think this is the whole point, just eating them once in a while, you kind of appreciate them more. Same with the schnitzels. Schnitzels, probably the same story. Although I like schnitzels, I probably make, I don't know, outside of Christmas, New Year, and Easter, I probably make another like 4 or 5 times or throughout the whole year. And I like schnitzels, I actually do. I mean, I'm talking whatever, well, the original recipe is with pork as far as I know, but then you can obviously use beef if you want to. You can use it with chicken. It'll be still kind of a schnitzel, but just not a schnitzel since it's not pork, because the pork is the original recipe. But pretty much the same thing, just using different meat. And maybe throughout the year, I use more chicken than pork for schnitzels. Okay, just lowering the temperature because now I feel like I'm kind of got it at the right temperature. Because before, once I added the meat was a bit too low, and now it kind of went up, and I kind of want to stop here. And this is the temperature that I need just to make sure that it cooks properly. As you can see, they stay nice together. Obviously, the egg and the breadcrumbs are what are doing this. The fat itself, obviously, it's kind of compacting everything together. But the egg and the breadcrumbs combined are literally like concrete in a way. Okay, let's just give them a bit of a shake. Being at this low temperature, it's not that kind of like dangerous to burn them, because if it was 180 degrees, I can guarantee you they would have been burned by now. But we need to keep them at low temperatures to make sure that they cook properly. Combine on the table. I just want to kind of give you an overview, like how would the Christmas table or the actual like New Year's in some situation. Although we kind of like eat fish for New Year, the cold platters are kind of always present. At least that's, as I said, Romania is a big country. I'm coming from northern Romania, so that's how it kind of looks. But then if you're going in a different region, different story. Now, apart from like eating fish, because it's usually fish that is popular over this period. I'm talking New Year's time. Apart from eating fish, the cold platters are always there. These are like more of a like starter kind of thing. And together with the what we've got here, there are many other recipes. Okay, let's just take care of this. Turning them around. They still look fine. I thought I kind of like burned some of them, but they still fine for now. So together with these, you're gonna have obviously different cheeses, Romanian cheeses. You have cheese meatballs. These can be hot, this can be cold. It all depends. Quite a lot of roulades, and I'm talking pork roulade. Meatloaf as well is popular. There is quite a lot of pork-related ingredients on that, and with that you have pickles. You can have fresh vegetables as well. I'm talking like tomatoes, peppers, and so on. But obviously, these not being in season are not that popular. So people are kind of like trying to stick to ingredients they have in season, and obviously not having red peppers in season, it doesn't stop you to use something like this. Let me show you. Pickle peppers, and these are from the Polish shop. As I mentioned earlier, when Patricia was in the stream, and I'm not sure if she's still here, we have so many similarities with like Romanians with the Polish, and probably the other way around. And we use these as well. Same with the gherkins. And what else? You'll probably have other things as well, but then they don't really come now in my mind. And another popular thing that's kind of like having a huge impact on the table is beef salad. I'm not sure if there is a different way, if it actually has another way of like calling it, but that's what it is. And in most, beef is kind of like probably understandable for most people, is a salad which should be really with beef. So it's beef and then many chopped like vegetables, like carrots, potatoes, peas. You can put sweet corn if you want to. So there are quite a few vegetables, and then mixed with mayo. So this is another cold salad. So this is going to be together with what we've got here. These are kind of going on the platter, sometimes separate, because obviously you have quite a few. You probably have to keep them separately, but just to have an understanding, that's what's happening. So all these on the table, and on top of that, another dip that's popular in Romania, if you get it like during the time that aubergines are in season. If you roast aubergines, you keep them in the freezer, peel them, obviously get them in the freezer, chop them up properly, and then mix them with a bit of mayo and a bit of garlic and onion, or you could even leave them without the mayo, just with like a touch of oil, and just kind of mix them like that. Season, salt and pepper, and that's another spread that's really popular. Even if these vegetables are not in season, especially in my region, is really popular to kind of like preserve food when they are in season and then have them for the times when they are not. Okay, let me show you what's going on here. So these are cooking nicely. As you can see, they're getting a nice color there. keeping it still at low temperature because I want to make sure that they're cooking all the way through. I don't think we are that far. From what I can see, we are not that far. And we have another like round or two, and that's, I think I probably can fit everything in one. So let's try that. Let's try to fit everything in one go. Okay, quick washing of hands, and we can remove the first batch. This can come out. Well, this is, by the looks of it, this is fine. So let me just get something to get them out. This is how they look like. Nice and golden brown in color. So definitely cooked all the way through because we kept them at 150 degrees Celsius temperature. And now let's move on with the rest. Probably increase the temperature slightly because when we're adding the cold meatballs, then the temperature drops. And I'm going to try to squeeze them all in. Although, you know, I would like to have a bit more space in between, but it's not really point keeping some, leaving some out for such a small amount. So I'm going to try to get them all in, see how it works. It should really. And then once we're done with this, we can move on to the schnitzels. Frying the schnitzels. And then we're pretty much done for tonight once we get the schnitzels in. Yeah, this is a tight squeeze, but what can you do? I mean, it's not really point for like 3-4 meatballs to do another batch. I don't really see the point. But I think we're just fine. So we kind of got away with it with what we've got there. I think last time when I done the video for YouTube, I mean for the channel, it took around 9 minutes. So around 9 minutes is what I counted. You know, if you get the right temperature, is around 9 minutes of frying. This is cooked. Definitely cooked. Perfect. After this, we're not going to be able to use the same oil. So I'm going to get ready another pan for the schnitzels. Which with the schnitzels, we don't need that oil anyway. But when you're frying meatballs like this, with this kind of combination, that have eggs, they have breadcrumbs, they tend to leave quite a few bits in there. And the oil gets darker faster for some reason. And I can't really reuse it, well, use it multiple times. So probably like 2 or 3 times. This oil was already used for something else. So I can't really go more than that. So this is kind of finished now. This is the last, is towards the end of its life now. So nice and easy there. Just getting ready the schnitzels meanwhile. Gonna get the schnitzels in a minute. I made quite a few, to be honest. I probably made more than I should have, but that's fine because these are great in sandwiches. These are great like on cold platters. They're great in multiple situations. They are kind of versatile, and even as, let's say, if you put them next to mashed potatoes, these are just great. If you put them, obviously, if you put them hot. So I wouldn't really worry about this. Man, these are so good. And as you can see, I mean, I'm not sure, you probably can see, they are not exactly the same. I'm talking like the shape of them. I think this is the whole point when you're doing home cooking. It's fine as long as they are cooked properly, as long as they have like the proper seasoning. I think this is totally fine. And these work really well with some mustard. Obviously with gherkins as well, but I'm not gonna get the gherkins now out. It's somewhere in the fridge anyway. These are perfect with mustard. I absolutely love them with mustard, and I love them with gherkins too. If you can get something like a Dijon mustard, or a bit more like mild mustard than Dijon, is even better. Perfect. Just gonna get this back in the fridge. So after that, we're moving on to the schnitzel. Got here another pan for it. I see that we have 3 people at this point. I know this is kind of like the boring part when the frying needs to be done, but this is part of the game. What can you do? And that's why I didn't want to keep you with the rest of the schnitzels, but I still want you to see the process, because I think it's important to kind of have an understanding of what's going on here and the way we're making this dish, we're putting this dish together. And even if you're, let's say, late into the stream, you might want to jump, once the stream is done, you might want to jump around and just see like what's going on right from the beginning. Yeah, I can't help myself. These are so good. And the idea is, I think what makes the difference, which is kind of crazy because these are meatballs, but then I think the breadcrumbs and the eggs are literally what makes the difference, especially the breadcrumbs for some reason, because you can feel that it's not just meat in there, but in the same time you don't really know what's going on. It's not that much breadcrumbs, and I think it just works perfectly, binding everything together. Yeah, we're getting there slowly. We're probably gonna have another like 4 minutes of cooking on that, 3-4 minutes, I don't even know, before we can move on to the schnitzels. A bit of wine, less than 24 hours, well, more than 24 hours, but not that more, over 24 hours, till we're going in 2022. We see you in the morning anyway, because we're going to be doing another live stream in the morning. So in the morning, if you're not aware, we're making some eggs Benedict. So in the morning, get ready. We'll be live at 9 making eggs Benedict. Perfect breakfast. Although it sounds kind of fancy, it's not that complicated. Saying this, we can go wrong with the hollandaise, but we'll see. I've not made hollandaise for a long time. It's been a while, to be honest. I can't remember how long, but it's been a while. When I work in the kitchen as a professional chef, that was one of those things that you would do quite often. But now, since I'm a home cook more than anything else, and I do this more for like passion and just having a connection with you guys here on the stream. I don't really, well, I've not done Hollandaise for ages. That's fine. I just hope that this is like going on the bicycle. You never really forget. But we'll see in the morning. We might go bad and you just kind of like, it's not going to work, but that's fine. We're going to try again. If it doesn't work, we're still going to have some sort of food in the end. It's a lot easier to see whether what I'm capable of when you'll see me in the morning and you see me live, whether I can actually do something or not. I actually really like the way these are cooking. They're really even. You can see that they get like an even color on all sides, and I think that it takes longer, but that's fine. I'm still happy, that I don't burn them because I keep it in a lower temperature. Under 50 degrees is pretty low. You get some pretty good results this way. And I'm going to increase this heat slightly because I think now I'm at the point where I cooked all the way through, and all I need is to give them some color on the outside, and we should be good. And we can move on to the schnitzels. Okay, with the schnitzels, I'm going to start here before we getting into that oil. And then we don't need that much oil like we have here, but we still need quite a bit of oil, obviously. So we give this schnitzel a nice golden brown color. So we probably need like half of the amount, even less than that, of oil, which is, I don't know, it is probably like 200 mils, 150 mils, something like that. Yeah, we are around that 150 to 200 mils of oil in there. And our meatballs look nice and golden brown in color, but well, they're kind of getting golden brown in color now because I increased the temperature slightly, and we shouldn't be that far now. I don't think we are that far, which is great. I can see that we have 4 people in the stream. Thank you guys for being here. And if you are late into the stream, we are making some nice Romanian style and my style kind of meatballs and schnitzels. So make sure you kind of stick around because now we are at the time when we're cooking everything. So if you want to see what's going on here, it's the perfect timing. Obviously, if you want to see the whole thing right from the beginning where I'm kind of preparing everything, then after this live stream, just go back and see what's going on. To be honest, I think before the temperature was slightly lower than I wanted it to be, and we kind of like just stayed there for a longer period of time. But that's fine. We're still getting some really good results. Well, I said last time I cooked them for like 9 minutes or so, but this time probably took longer. That's okay. I'm happy till these are not burned and these are cooked all the way through. I'll give them another minute, and I think we will be good to take them out. Yeah, this should be good in another like less than a minute. We'll take them out, and we should be good with what we've got. I'm happy with what I see there. I'm pretty sure these are cooked all the way through. Obviously, if you're not sure, worst case scenario, well, not worst case scenario, just kind of like take one, open it, see if it's cooked all the way through. Especially if you're adding them in the same time, you should be able to kind of tell whether they cooked or not. Right, stopping the heat, and then just getting them in here. Pretty hot, but my fingers can take it. Right, now these on the side, we don't need these anymore. It's kind of finished, that oil. We use it like 3 times, I think, considering that I used it before this cooking. So that's, yeah, it's gonna go later on. So now we're moving on to the schnitzels. I've got here the schnitzels. Let me show you what's going on here. So the schnitzels, they've been through. So I've got pork tenderloin, just to kind of like recap what's going on, just in case you are late into the stream. So schnitzels here, pork tenderloin, flatten out with meat tenderizer. After that, seasoning, salt, pepper, smoked paprika, sweet paprika, thyme, and garlic powder. Spread it in layers, making sure that you season both sides, up and down. And after that, what you need to do is just give them a bit of time to absorb some of that flavor. So I kept them in the fridge for, it should have been longer, to be honest with you. If you can keep them even overnight, I would say it's probably good, because they're gonna absorb some more of that seasoning. But that's fine if you keep them even if, let's say, 15-20 minutes. It's still a good thing to do. And then what you're doing after with it, pane. So the pane process, as I mentioned, as you could see earlier, or if you relate it to the stream, flour, egg, breadcrumbs. In this situation, we're going a bit fancy. Well, not that fancy, let's be honest, using panko breadcrumbs, but you don't need to use panko breadcrumbs, and you could go easily with normal breadcrumbs if you want to. And getting these normal breadcrumbs will get you pretty much the same results, although with panko, it looks a bit better just because it's got a bit more volume. And the crispiness, it's there. It's just on point. You get better crispiness with this, because obviously the breadcrumbs itself is bigger. It's got more edges, so that's why we're getting that. But other than that, let me show you here what's going on. So we're getting these to, well, we want to get this heated up. Again, you don't really want to go crazy. You probably don't need 180 degrees Celsius. You probably want slightly less than that, but not the same temperature that we use for the meatballs, which this was around 150, because these are kind of like chunkier, and obviously you want to make sure that they get cooked all the way through. With these, you probably want something around 170, 175, kind of like that area. We can control, well, considering that I'm not using any thermometer or anything like that, but I just kind of like seeing it, I'm going to know whether it needs higher temperature or lower temperature. I think I've got some water in there. That's why it's kind of going all over the place. But that's fine. It's part of the game. As long as I kind of stay away from it, we should be good. That's it. So once that all water is out, we can get in. Well, it's kind of coming out anyway. Look at it. It's not another, there is no way. Okay, I think that's fine. So let me show you here. And now at this point, I want to lower the temperature because I think I'm a bit too high. But then adding the schnitzels in, which are cold, they're going to drop the temperature slightly. So what I want to do now is just kind of like see how the temperature evolves. So if you look at the bubbles, I think that's what you want. You want kind of like not, when you see the bubbles kind of going all over the place, then it's when you have like higher temperature than you need. But now when you see them like nice and kind of like bubbly every now and, well, not every now and then, consistently bubbling, but not all over the place, it's probably the time when you have a right temperature. And then when you see them getting a nice color on the edges, when you see the schnitzel getting nice color on the edges, is the time when you need to flip it over. This is a very simple rule that you can follow, but obviously check it with the probe thermometer. You could do that and it will work really well. Unfortunately, I have no more paper, and I'm pretty sure I used to have some paper here somewhere. I still kind of cannot believe that. I was pretty sure that we had some, but we don't have some. Okay. I ran out of paper, so ideally you want some paper here. Let me turn this around, just because obviously at this side it's not cooking as well as in the middle, so I kind of want to turn them around. But then ideally you want some paper here. Why you need that? It's just because what I'm going to actually do, I'm just going to move the meatballs to something else. So meatballs, and then I'm gonna put the schnitzels in there just in case there is any, just in case we have any excess oil that we want to get rid of. Okay, so almost there. I think we can go now higher a bit with the temperature. So that's the temperature you're kind of looking for. I'm not sure what the exact temperature is now. I mean, I probably have a probe thermometer here somewhere, but as you can see, it's nice. Obviously, the meat needs to be cooked as well. Although it's kind of like you use the meat tenderizer, it's still not at the point that it's really, really thin. And as soon as you heat the oil, it's going to be cooked. No, it's not that. This is not the case. So you want to give it a bit of time so it cooks properly. And now I think it's the time to flip this over. So that's what you want. You want golden and a bit towards brown. Golden, a bit towards brown is what you're looking for. And it should look like this because otherwise it's overcooked. Well, I'm not talking just the meat, but I'm talking you're gonna get burnt, you're gonna get the schnitzels burnt, and you don't really want that. Obviously, if you are to cook them, I think, I might be wrong, but I think the original recipe, which might be German, Austrian, or whatever, the schnitzels are cooked chunkier. So you get them like quite thick. I'm talking a quarter of an inch or something like that. Well, thicker than what I made them. Probably double in size. So as you can imagine, for something like this, you would need a lot more cooking time, or either you get them in the oven after that. If you need to get them in the oven, that's fine. You could get them in the oven, but in this situation, there's no point. They're quite thin. You will be able to cook them all the way through in the pan, and I don't see the point of getting them in the oven. You're just going to get them like completely dry. All you need, as soon as they get color on both sides, I'm pretty sure like this is not far either. So this, I just flipped it over, so both sides cooked. This is 100% that's going to be cooked because it's kind of thin. Remove it from the heat. And then as soon as you get one of the heat, put another one in. To be honest, for these situations, it's not ideal using the wok, but wok is what I got, and I think it's like an amazing pan. If you don't have a wok, I think you should really have a wok. It's just universal. It's probably not ideal for this job because having a wider pan, you could fit a lot more schnitzels in, but in the same time, the heat is not that big, so the heat is just under the pan anyway, so it wouldn't really help because you get probably a lot more heat here in the middle, but you wouldn't have that much in the side, so you still have some sort of issues. Okay, so this, fine. I'll just leave it just a bit more color on that side, and I'm actually happy with what I've got. Nice, crispy. Another way of making this, which is still popular, I'm not saying this not, it's not the one I prefer, but it's still popular. It's just kind of stopping at the point that you're making, you putting them in flour and egg. And that's pretty much it. Flour, egg, and straight in here. That's another way of doing it, and you're not going to get this crispy part on the outside, obviously, because you don't have the breadcrumbs. But that's another way of doing it. It's not my favorite, but that's another option. Let's say you're missing breadcrumbs, then you could potentially kind of go ahead with the cooking, but in the same time, you're not going to get exactly the same results. So probably we're going to cook another like 2 schnitzels or so. Well, I don't have any more made here, but I'm going to do some more later on. But then I'm probably going to make another 1 or 2. And then after that, you might need to replace the oil. You don't want to go with this oil for like the whole cooking. As soon as you kind of like see black bits on the actual schnitzels, because they kind of like come over all the breadcrumbs, not all of it, but part of the breadcrumbs. They will remain into the oil, and they get dark in color, and they kind of get attached to the schnitzels, and you don't want that. all of the schnitzel is not going to be burned. On the outside, it's going to look kind of weird, and it's going to change that flavor as well. And you don't want that, so replace the oil or filter the oil if you can. Filter the oil if it's not burned, obviously. Filter the oil, and you can go once again with the oil, maybe kind of like do a mixture of fresh oil with ready used oil. Yeah, as I said, you know, because of this pan being slightly smaller, and anyway, the heat is in the middle, you probably want to kind of like mix them around, making sure that they get same color here with overall, you know, so you get the same color like on all sides. So that's something that you need to bear in mind. Okay, this is pretty much there as well. I'm not that far with that one. And then I've got another one, and I've got a few more in there, but I'm not going to kind of like cook them all now. Although we could, if you want to stay into the stream, we could probably go, which I'm probably going to do it anyway, because since I'll be here cooking, then you can probably stay with me for another like 20 minutes and just continue with the rest of the, and plus you might be late into the stream, and I just want to show you the panning process, see how it's done. So this one, done. Let me actually show you. Now this one, flip it over. You see, nice golden brown. Well, more of a like golden than brown, but that's what we kind of want. Okay, slowing down the temperature slightly, and let's bring all these ingredients back here. Well, all the panning kind of like ingredients. Okay, this is not that far. I like it. It's nice, crispy. I'm not sure if you can, how much you can hear. Nice, crispy on the outside, because that's what we want. And let's bring more. I've got the egg and the meat. So eggs, meat, kind of crowded. I'm gonna move some of the spices, seasoning, all that crap, because we don't need it anymore. So we don't need any more of that. This, almost there. Not quite, but almost there. Okay, so let me show you how it works. I actually can probably cook 1 or 2 batches with this oil. We'll see. It'll be easy to spot like when the oil is kind of like done, completely gone. I'll show you in a minute. So flour first, plain flour, strong flour, whatever the flour, wheat flour is, that's what's important to know. Okay, let me get this one out, because this one is done now. We're getting this out and continue cooking with that one, which is not that far either. So first egg, well, flour was first, but then now we are the egg part. Making sure that it gets well coated in that egg, and then straight into breadcrumbs, and then making sure that it gets breadcrumbs all over the place. And this can go straight into frying. So once we get that one into frying, let's get one more just for the time when we're removing that. It should be like a working station kind of thing. So I know it's not ideal, but if you, let's say if you can cook this with your friend, cook this with your wife, cook this with whoever, if you have a partner, with somebody else, you could, let's say, do the panning, and then the other person is doing the actual frying. So that makes it easier. Okay, this looks cool. I think I'm actually happy with that. It's not bad. Okay, so we've got one more there. I'm gonna get one more. This is a bit thicker than the other, so it's important to bear in mind when you have like slightly thicker pieces of meat, then you're probably gonna need more cooking on those. So now let's see. Okay, that needs a bit more. Okay, we'll just leave it like that, increasing a bit the heat, because it seems like we don't have the the right temperature. You're probably gonna need to kind of like shift in between the temperatures just because, or swap the temperatures just because obviously when you're adding the meat in, this is cold. So being cold is gonna drop the temperature of the oil. But then after that, when the oil kind of like catches up with the temperature, then or in order to catch up with the temperature, you might need to increase the heat. So that's one of those like cat and mouse situation when you continue to, okay, this, I'm happy with it. So it can come off the heat. Now, next. I think I'm going to stop here with this oil because it already starts kind of like looking messy. So breadcrumbs, this is the panko I was talking about, but we soon gonna need some of the normal breadcrumbs to kind of like get into place because it's not gonna be the panko I had and I bought, it's not gonna be enough. So we're gonna be adding some normal breadcrumbs, that's fine. I'm not that bothered about it. I think we're gonna literally break. Oh, sorry, Eric was asking something. Sorry, my friend. Yeah, I kind of like, what's the dish? Yeah, so the dish is pork schnitzel that I'm making here. Yeah, you actually got it right. Because you said that it looks like schnitzel, but it is schnitzel. Yeah, my bad. For seeing this late. I mean, I kind of like lost track of what's going on here. My mom is in the house as well, as always. Happy to see her here. Yeah, so we're making schnitzels. Yeah, for those of you that are late into the stream, and sorry for missing some of your comments because I kept kind of like talking and talking. Yeah, sorry, Eric. Sorry, Patricia. Yeah, I mean, there are a few people that I missed. Well, I think Patricia, I think I responded to it, but then, yeah, Eric, I missed it. Was there anybody else? Team, we had it. Yeah, so we missed a few comments there. Yeah, sorry about that. I kind of got carried away with talking, cooking, and so on. So I'm just gonna make some space here in the sink so I can wash that pan. Well, just get the oil in some sort of container and wash the pan because I wanna change this oil. So the schnitzels look great. That's what Eric said. Thank you, Eric. Appreciated. Okay, these are not far, and then after that we're gonna remove the pan from the heat just because I wanna exchange the oil. So kind of like half the way through, maybe not even half the way through, but kind of that we changing the oil just to kind of get, because we start getting some of those burnt bits into on the schnitzels, and I don't really want that. So just getting this into a container and then just give you a quick wash to the pan should do the job. Find some paper here. There's only one tiny piece of paper, but this helped me a lot because I don't really need to wash the pan, but then I just kind of want to make sure that I got rid of some of those bits that I don't want them to be in the oil. So now fresh oil. A bit more. Okay, so fresh oil in there. Bringing this to the heat. Just gonna turn up the heat. And then getting a few more meanwhile, because now I have this time when I have the time to do a few more schnitzels till the oil gets hot. So let's get a few more. Want to go all in, forget about the rule with one hand dry and the other one not. Going messy here. Okay, so Pretty sure this should be hot enough. And it is indeed. So straight in. Now from the egg to the breadcrumbs. One more. And then after I'm gonna add the other breadcrumbs because we kind of running out here. But that's fine. You can, as I said, you don't need to go with panko breadcrumbs. Normal breadcrumbs, and even if you don't have breadcrumbs, as I said earlier, you could skip it. Although I don't really like that method, there is still an option just to do it with flour and egg. And I've seen some recipes, and I don't use that, but you can kind of like beat the egg whites first. So beat the egg whites, so you get like a foamy kind of like structure, and after that you could add the yolks, combining all together like you would make it for like you would do a cake, for example. And once you got that done, once you get them into the flour, once you get the schnitzel into the flour, dip them into that, and then after into the oil, and you should get a fluffier outside layer. I'm not a big fan of that either. I just kind of like this with breadcrumbs. I want it crispy on the outside. I want to feel that crispiness. I think it just works well. I think these are perfect cold, are perfect hot. They just work in so many situations. Okay, so I think we got the right temperature. Let's do a few more, because that's what you need to do. If you're doing it on your own, just try to find gaps every now and then where you can prepare a few more. Plus we have here like for another batch for frying. So we are a bit ahead, which is great because we don't have any more pressure now. And if you feel that you're under pressure, let's be honest, it's home cooking. You can stop, just stop the heat, do a few more, and it should be good. It's not like making it in a restaurant where you kind of need to, when you have orders and you need to do it on time. This is different story. For home cooking, I mean, do you think I could take, well, this is almost like 2 hours to make schnitzels and something like this? If let's say hypothetically I had an order for something like this, schnitzels and pork meatballs. Can you imagine that customer wouldn't be into the restaurant by now, waiting 2 hours for the food? Although in some situations you have to because it's just too busy and that's the way it is. But just like in a normal day, you would definitely not wait that long for a food like this. But here we are taking our time. We're having a glass of wine. Easy. And if you have any questions, if you have anything to say, obviously we're putting here on the stream. Nice and easy. We have time for it. Nobody's rushing us. If we need to stay another 2 hours, we can stay another 2 hours. I just want to show you, meanwhile, if you are late into the stream. So these are the meatballs we prepared earlier. So the meatballs and the actual schnitzels. I'm probably saying this for like 4 times, but that's like literally the 5th time or something like that. But that's absolutely fine. These are going on the platter. So very popular on Romanian cold platter. So these, obviously you can get them in like a sealed container, put them in the fridge, and then just keep them in there till tomorrow. Because like for New Year's Eve, you can make a nice cold platter and just enjoy it with friends and family. Obviously not that much during these times with what's happening now in the world, but that's a different story. In normal situations, that's what would people do. So we've got another 2 ready. I'm happy with the color. I'm pretty sure they are cooked properly. They're cooked all the way through. And now let's get another 2 in. Just make sure that, you know, they are flattened. So they, obviously this is kind of hard here because they are quite big for this pan, but make sure that they're like flattened in the pan, flat, so they have the chance to cook all the way through and evenly. Right, so let's move on with what we have here. So I have another like 2-3 kind of like batches to cook. These are going to be slightly different because we have a combination of normal breadcrumbs with panko breadcrumbs. That's fine. They're not going to be that far apart. So you can definitely, as mentioned earlier, you can definitely go with normal breadcrumbs if you don't have the panko breadcrumbs. Plus, normal breadcrumbs is cheaper. You could make it yourself. I'm pretty sure you could make panko breadcrumbs yourself. I guess so, because it's just kind of like still bread or dough related. So I'm pretty sure you could make it. I never tried. I don't want to talk crap, but then I'm pretty sure you could make it yourself. I think I got the temperature a bit too high, so I'm just gonna get it back to where it was. It's a bit difficult as well. I mean, I should have mentioned, you're probably going to have a lot more control when it comes to a normal ceramic hob or something like that. Something like even gas, or gas probably would have been even better because you have a lot more control over the heat. This is, with the induction, they are kind of like fast and angry. And then as soon as the temperature kind of like kicks in, they just literally can burn everything around. So you're probably going to get better results if you were, well, not better, but you wouldn't have, you have that probably peace of mind if you were to use gas or something that has a constant temperature. But anyway, when you're adding the schnitzels in, obviously the temperature of the oil will drop. That's something you don't really need to know rocket science in order to realize that. And after that, you'll have to kind of like bump the temperature, so you bring it to the temperature that you actually need as soon as. Okay, schnitzels in the making. We're getting ready for Christmas Eve, guys. Well, not Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve. Christmas Eve is long gone. Well, not that long, but then still gone. So we're getting ready. We're going to be making some platters for, well, these are going to be part of the platter we're making for tomorrow night. Kind of multitasking here, but that's fine. Okay, so I'm kind of done here with the breadcrumbs, with the flour, egg. I'm just going to move these on the side. I probably need like an hour of cleaning after this, but that's fine because the dishwasher will have a great time. Okay, so this is cooking the way we want it. Let me actually show you what's going on. Yeah, these can get a bit messy, as you can see, and I have no more paper left, but that's fine. I'm just going to get parts of it out of the way. I want to keep this. Okay, this is going out there. Just removing some of these crumbs from the table. This is slightly thicker, so I'm gonna need probably a slightly more cooking time. But other than that, business as usual. I see that we have still 3 people here, which is kind of amazing considering that we are approaching now 2 hours. But if you're still here, I would appreciate if you give this a like and a share. Maybe there are other people that might be interested, maybe not now for New Year's Eve or today or tomorrow, or maybe in 2020, they might be interested on making schnitzels or even the meatballs. And if you miss the meatballs, because these were the things that we made earlier on, but obviously being here for 2 hours, we couldn't just make schnitzels and that's it. So if you miss the meatballs, you might want to, once we finish the stream, you might want to go back and see what happened there and just see if you like this recipe too, because I think they came out really well. Let me actually show you what's going on here. So these are the meatballs. These, again, they're going to be served cold. Same story on the platters with the schnitzels. So if you're interested on knowing how I made this, you might want to go back and just have a look. Probably gonna need a bit more oil in there. So once I get these out, I'm gonna get a bit more oil there. And by the way, as mentioned earlier, if you have any questions, even if let's say you're watching these in replay, so once I finish the stream, if you're watching this and you see this, drop me a message if you have any questions. If let's say you need something that I didn't explain it well, because it could be I talk a lot, but in some situation I just talk crap. So it could be that I didn't explain something well. Make sure you go back into the stream. Well, not into the stream, into the replay, into this video. Drop a comment or even a direct message, and I'll respond to it 100%. I respond to all the comments. So make sure that if you have any questions, just drop them in there, and I'm happy to answer. We're almost there with these, and we're moving on. I just not before we're adding a bit more oil, because I feel like we kind of lost a bit of that oil. I mean, let me actually show you what's going on here and why I'm using this colander. I mean, the whole point of this, if you can see, so we're getting rid of any excess oil, and I should probably, talking about excess oil, should probably remove some of this, because obviously the oil, it's kind of like dripping on one on top of another, and just give the chance to the ones that are like freshly made to get rid of the oil that they have, you know, straight from the pan. Okay, just a bit more oil in here, fresh oil. We should be fine, I guess, to cook everything with this oil that we have here. We'll find out. It still seems clean. It's not ideal, because obviously there'll be quite a few bits. That's what's happening when you're cooking with breadcrumbs. So we're always gonna have, you know, some bits, you know, that are obviously detaching from the actual schnitzels or whatever you're panning. So that can be a problem. Man, I tell you what, I made a lot more than I thought so. But then I kind of got carried away. That's fine. These, you know, I probably gonna have like 2 or 3 tonight, because they smell amazing. They look good as well. And then you can keep them for like 3 days in the fridge. Not problem. And plus, if you're making sandwiches and all that kind of stuff, that should be fine. Another thing is, once they, at some point, I think it's because, well, either the oil is kind of giving up, or it's because of the egg that the pan contains. It kind of starts bubbling like crazy, and you get like all this bubbling. You know, that's why at some point, that's another reason you might need to change the oil, because it just gets really weird, and you kind of like losing the schnitzels into all those bubbles. It's like cooking with soapy water for some reason. But then we shouldn't really get there. We have another 2 batches to cook, so hopefully we're not going to get at that point. But as you can see, there is something already forming in here, a bit more than we had at the beginning. But still fine. We're still going on, still going strong. Let's have a bit more wine meanwhile. And as mentioned, probably, well, I'm not sure if you guys been here, because some of you might have, some of you not, but we will be live in the morning making eggs Benedict. So if you fancy to, well, if you don't have anything to do in the morning, if you are at work but you don't want to work, you just pretend that you work, or if you have a PC or a phone in front of you, you might want to jump in and just at least say hello. Or if you don't want to say hello, that's fine, because you don't want your boss or anything like that, or your manager to see that you're watching some weird guy on Facebook or on YouTube. At least jump in, watch the video, and maybe you might get something out of it, because we're making some eggs Benedict, which are really easy to make. If we're getting the Hollandaise right, which we should. If we don't, then we're gonna find out both, because if we screw it up, we are live tomorrow, and we both gonna find out in the same time, I guess. Yeah. Almost there. Almost there. Over 2 hours. This is like the longest stream I ever done, but it was worth it. I kind of wanted to stop at some point, but then in the end I was like, you know what, we're gonna keep going because I think we have. And my wife with the Christmas tree, she's still Christmas. she's the biggest supporter of Christmas, or yeah, let's just say that. Yeah, she definitely loves Christmas. Okay, so this is fine. Let's see if I can find something for that gap here. That should be just enough. And then another 3 to go. We're not that far. As you can see, it's getting foamy now. It starts getting foamy. I'm going to add a bit more oil. I don't want to change the oil anymore. We're going to go like this for another batch. It should be fine. I'm just going to add a touch more oil, you know, to kind of like keep it alive. Man, I tell you what, we have quite a few schnitzels here. And she's also so hungry. Well, I kind of get it because we've been here for like 2 hours. So this was meant to be faster. But every time I say an hour, I kind of had a feeling that this is going to take longer, but not that long. I had a feeling that's going to take longer. Anyway. Approaching 2 hours and 10 minutes. We should be done probably around 2:15, something like that. Or maybe not. I don't want to say anything because I have a feeling that every time I say something, we're taking a lot longer. But I'm glad that you guys stayed here with me. Tomorrow's live shouldn't be that long, and I can guarantee you that it's not going to be that long because we're only making eggs, bringing up the heat as well because I added a bit more oil. So as we're making eggs Benedict, this shouldn't take that long. Otherwise, you're just going to hate me since this is a breakfast dish. So in the morning, you don't want to spend ages when it comes to breakfast. Although this is kind of taking probably a bit more than a normal cooking, it's still not that bad. I think if you organize well, I think it shouldn't really take us forever. Okay, 2 more to go. Let me actually show you how many. We got a ton of schnitzels here. Nice, crispy, perfect. Some of them with normal breadcrumbs, some of them with panko breadcrumbs. It's just perfect. Different textures. Probably not different flavors because it's not that big of a difference whether you make it with panko or not. Okay, let's see. Is this fine? This is fine. Okay, another one out. And then adding one more in. And we are almost there. 1 more to go. So one more schnitzel to go. Look at this. How many we've got here. Quite a few, to be honest. I mean, let me just kind of like break one apart and just kind of like, you're not going to see much, but as you can see, it's important to have the right balance between breadcrumbs and meat. You don't want to eat just breadcrumbs and you don't want to eat just meat. So it needs to be a balance in between. And I think what I got here, they're just perfectly balanced. And whether you eat them hot or cold, it's totally up to you. But what I'm making here is for the cold platters. Obviously, if you get a portion of fries, a portion of mashed potatoes, some mushroom sauce or something like that, they work perfectly like this. But you could also eat them cold on the platters that I was talking about earlier on. Man, we're really losing the oil here, so it's a bit more needed. Obviously, these being with breadcrumbs, that breadcrumbs absorb some of that oil during cooking. So this is not that big of a surprise. But in the same time, you need to probably have quite a bit of oil ready, just in case you need to kind of top up. This is kind of chunky as well, so I need to cook it a bit more. So these are the parts. Some of these are the parts that were from the. So how the the tenderloin. At the end, we had like the edges basically, which were kind of like difficult to get them like flat and evenly. So these are the parts that are a bit more like thicker, are a bit more like all over the place. So these I'm going to cook them slightly more than just to make sure that they cook properly. But they are not that far. And then one more to go. So one more to go, and we should be done for should be done for the day. And we're approaching soon 2 hours and 15 minutes. My God, I didn't expect that at the beginning of this live. I was kind of like thinking that this will get into like 1 hour and 45 minutes. But I didn't really expect to be more than that. But it's fine. We still have a bit of wine in here. We still have to cook some... we're still cooking some schnitzels. Happy days. Okay, getting these out of the way, making a bit more space for the fresh ones. And it's time for the last piece. I'm just gonna add a bit more oil because it feels like it's not enough. Increasing a bit the temperature because now it's gonna drop the temperature, adding this cold schnitzel. These can go out the way. Just kind of like piling up everything on this side so you guys cannot really see it, but trust me, it's quite a bit of washing up to do. Man, these are kind of greasy, I give you that, because obviously you're frying them in oil and they absorb quite a bit of oil, considering that you have that breadcrumb, which is dry. So as soon as it hits the oil, obviously they're going to absorb some of that oil. It's just the way it is. But my God, they are so good. And they smell good as well. Okay, I'm happy with these two. So these out. And all we have now is one schnitzel. So one schnitzel remaining. One schnitzel remaining. Do we have anybody asking anything in here? No, I don't see anyone asking anything in here, but that's fine. And as I mentioned earlier, if you guys late into the stream, we're making schnitzels and we made some meatballs and we're almost done now. I mean, we close to the finish. We're cooking the last schnitzel here. So last schnitzel, we have quite a few schnitzels, as you can see. We definitely have quite a few schnitzels. So I'm actually really happy and thankful in the same time that you guys stay with me till the end, because this took a lot longer than I was expecting. I didn't really rush it anyway. I mean, as I said, if it takes longer, that's fine. We are not in a rush here. We're doing home cooking. I mean, some of you might be rushing because obviously life, kids, and so on. But then if you have the time, I like to cook, to enjoy the cooking. I cook fast and to order enough when I was working as a professional chef. Now I just want to kind of enjoy and just have a great time cooking. As long as it takes, that's fine. We're kind of smoking everything in here now. Let's probably turn on the extraction fan. That will be ideal. So turning that on just to make sure that we don't kind of like burn something. But this schnitzel is not far away, so we shouldn't be that bad. Yeah, the oil is definitely towards the end, like the end of its life. So that's why I said you need to change the oil every now and then, because as you can see, I mean, I know this is still usable, but as you can see here, there are like some dark bits on the schnitzel that you wouldn't probably see on the others. But that's because obviously there are quite a few of like fragmentations coming from the schnitzel, from the other schnitzel that we could previously, and these get kind of stuck on the fresh one that we just added. Okay, last schnitzel is out, turning off the heat. So heat is off. Game over here. Let me turn these off. And let me show you what's going on here. So that's what we've got here. We've got some meatballs that we made earlier, and we've got plenty of schnitzels for today, tomorrow, and the day after. For cold platters, if you want to make cold platters, that's what we're going to use actually these for. If you want to use something with hot, you could definitely do so. But after 2 hours and 16 minutes, we're pretty much done. Thank you guys for being here with me for that long, because this has been a long one. And by the way, make sure you give this a like and a share on the way out. It would be highly appreciated. And I'll see you in the morning, because in the morning we're making eggs Benedict. So at 9 a.m. British time. Make sure you get in. If you're working, you're probably pretending that you're working, let's be honest, because it's New Year's Eve. So make sure that you jump into the stream, because I want to show you how to make some nice eggs Benedict. Hopefully we're going to get them right. If we don't get them right, well, you're going to find out tomorrow. And that was me for today. This is what we cooked today. So pork meatballs, schnitzels, and that was kitchen draft as well. I'll see you tomorrow in the morning. Make sure you don't miss it.